Hello there, great to be with you once again. Ian here, and as the curtain begins to gradually close on 2019, I really hope that you're having a healthy, happy and strong conclusion to the calendar year. Today I'd like to share a few thoughts on the topic of staff turnover. Staff turnover is, of course, the rate at which people join and then leave your company. If it's high, a large proportion of people join, stay for a short time and then leave. If staff turnover is low, people typically stay with us for many years before they eventually move on. Now, for years, staff turnover has been viewed as something quite negative. After we've recruited someone, trained them, developed a relationship with that person, they choose to leave. Triggering, of course, a recruitment phase, re-interviewing new people, and that for many of us can be quite a negative aspect of running the company. And I'm sure if you've run a team or run a company for any length of time, you've encountered these issues. But the world of work is changing, and it's changing in ways that it's going to be hard to predict even 5 years from now how our work rhythms will change and what they will look like. For example, when I first got into the world of work, I think it was my third job, a couple of years after starting work, there was one gentleman who had the same job from leaving school to retirement. He was approaching retirement when I knew him, and that was a span of around about 40 years. Today, even if you meet someone who's worked for the same company for 5 years, that already is seeming to be a long time. So the rhythms and our attitudes to work are changing. So what do we do? How do we run our companies successfully and cope with the idea of staff turnover? Well, there are two basic ideas that I'd like to share with you, two overarching sort of principles that I think will give us a clue to how we handle this. The first thing is to, rather than view staff turnover as a negative idea, be open and transparent about it as something that we're going to have to embrace and live with as our attitudes to work and the work experience changes. So be transparent and open about staff turnover. So how do we do that in practice? Well, first of all is to communicate to our team that we don't expect people to be here for not so much the rest of their lives, but for maybe 5-10 years. We accept that turnover is going to happen. We don't sweep it under the carpet or try and keep it hushed up when somebody leaves. It's a natural progression. People join our company, they contribute at as high a level as possible, and then if they choose to leave, that's okay. So we make it open and transparent. When someone joins our company, what I recommend is we do whatever we can to meet them as they are, meet them where they are, partner them, and help them achieve what they want to achieve for their personal goals while they contribute at high levels to the company that we're running or to our team. So when they join, celebrate the fact that they've joined us, understand their goals, develop them to the maximum capability, invest in them, and all being well, they'll contribute at high levels before they choose to leave. Now, many of us, just while we're on the topic, think, if I spend this money and time on someone and they choose to leave, it's wasted money. I know where that comes from, but it's rarely the case. If you don't train and invest someone, they contribute at lower levels and you end up in a false economy. So invest, and training virtually pays off as soon as you finish the training. So it's never or hardly ever a wasted expense, even if they choose to leave. you get a year or two's high contribution before they move on. So celebrate them joining, meet them where they are, understand what they want, invest and train. They contribute at high levels, all being well, and then when they choose to leave on good terms. Accept it as part of the evolution of business and maintain contact with those people that progress through your company. They may be joining either a customer, a supplier, or even a competitor, but if we maintain contact and we've left on good terms, sometimes they realise that life was actually quite good with your company and they may want to rejoin. And if you're on good terms, I don't see that as being a particular problem. Now, while we're on the topic of companies, I remember reading several years ago of one manager in a fairly large corporation who was famous, or he had a reputation of accepting people into his department, investing and training in them really well, and then typically those people would move to other areas of the company. Rather than that being viewed as negative, the manager was never short of people wanting to join his department because they knew they'd grow and be challenged, and then there would be no barrier to them moving on. He wouldn't try and retain them. So he was never short of internal applicants to join his team. So the first principle is accept and be transparent about turnover as something we're going to have to live with, I think, more as the work environment evolves. The second key idea is, of course, if this movement of staff is something that we're going to have to accept, we should not be relying on individuals for things like internal projects and the running of the company and for customer service and delivery. If we have this accepted turnover, it's important to re-engineer our businesses so that customers are not reliant on a single person and the company is not reliant on a single person for its functioning. If a customer is relying on a single person and that person chooses to leave, then we have a problem because those customer needs go unmet until we can retrain or re-recruit someone to take their place. Similarly, if we have internal operations and we have a single point of risk, if that person leaves, then our accounting function doesn't work properly, or our project delivery would suffer. So the second key is to re-engineer ourselves so that we don't have these single points of risk. And if someone chooses to leave us, it's not a disaster. So typically customer support is driven by small teams of people, and we have redundancy built into our internal processes so that when people leave, it's not a major disaster or major hindrance. So I really hope that that's given us some ideas. The world of work is changing, and how it will look like even in 5 years' time, I don't think anybody really knows. We're into something that many call the gig economy, with people that don't consider themselves employed by any one company but go from contract to contract or gig to gig. That's already an evolving space, so we're changing. One of the keys really is to look at staff turnover not in so much of a negative light, but to accept it as part of the evolution, engineer our companies to account for that, and I think we'll be stronger as a result. I really hope that did make sense, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon. Please do drop a comment below, and I'd love to hear your views on the topic. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.